James Joyce was born in Dublin in 1882. He studied at a Jesuit college, and he was supposed to become a Catholic clerk, but he said no to religion, to family, and to his country. In fact, he left the Jesuit college and gave up the idea of becoming a priest. He chose to become an artist. And in order to do that, he decided he had to leave Dublin as the center of a cultural paralysis. Dublin is the center of paralysis because Dubliners were basically passive, unable to say no to the British domination, unable to say no to the Roman Catholic domination. In fact, in A Portrait of the Artist and in Ulysses, Stephen said, I shall not serve the two masters, Rome and Dublin. I will disobey, I will say no, I will be free and I will become an artist in Paris. So here we find the symbolic meaning of the name of this character. He is named after Saint Stephen, who was the first Christian martyr, who was condemned and stoned to death because he wanted to preach the gospel, basically. And Daedalus, because Daedalus succeeded in escaping the labyrinth he was trapped into using wax wings. So that's why the symbolic name Stephen Daedalus is quite effective to describe what kind of character he is. Stephen underwent an epiphany during his adolescence. He was convinced he would become a priest, especially after committing a sin. He visited a brothel. He had sex with a prostitute. After that, he heard a priest preaching about the fires of hell. He wanted to save his soul, and so he offered his life to religion. But on a sunny day, he was walking down the beach, and he was fascinated by the beauty of the landscape, and he understood that he certainly had to become a priest, but not a priest for a religion, but a priest for art. He would have liked to become an artist. And we can find some comparison between Stephen, James Joyce, and Gabriel Conroy, who is another character of his. We find Gabriel Conroy in one of the 15 short stories collected in Dubliners. Gabriel was a wannabe artist, but he couldn't become an artist because he didn't have any skill, any artistic skill at all. In fact, the only way he could do, the only thing he could do was criticizing other people's art. In fact, he was a literary critic, but he was not able to create anything on his own. But he was so proud of his life. He thought he was a successful professor, a successful literary critic. He had 3 aunts who literally worshipped him. They invited Gabriel and Greta, his wife, for Christmas, and in every way they told him how proud they were about him. But on that occasion, Greta heard a song which reminded her of her first love, that is Michael Fury. She did not want to stay any longer. They went back to their hotel room. Gabriel wanted to have sex with her, but she didn't feel like embracing her husband, because her mind was full of the memory of Michael, and she confessed that she was thinking of this past love of hers. Gabriel was shocked at first because he thought that Michael was still living and that he had to be jealous of Michael. But then he found out that Michael was actually dead. And so Gabriel asked Greta, what did she die of? And that's when Gabriel's epiphany occurred. When Greta answered, I think she died for me. So for the first time in his life, Gabriel realized that in this world, on this earth, there are people who are able to live and even to die for something or for someone which he would never ever think of doing. He had never had anything to live or to die for. So this was an epiphany for him. He realized that his life was completely empty, meaningless. Probably, maybe, Gabriel is what Joyce himself would have become if he had stayed in Dublin. Probably he would not have completed his transition from a young man to a real artist. What he did, what he became. Stephen can also be found as one of the three main characters in Ulysses. Stephen Daedalus, whose father Simon was still alive, but Stephen decided to cut short with him. He didn't want to have anything to do with him. So basically he lost his father, although he was still alive. And on the other hand, we find Leopold Bloom. Leopold Bloom and his unfaithful wife, Molly. Leopold is named after a famous Austrian poet, Leopold von Masoch, because Leopold is some kind of masochistic character. Leopold is unable to rebel against his wife's betrayals, her being unfaithful to him, and he is a Hungarian Jew, so he is out of place in Dublin. He is not Irish, he is from Hungary. He is the son of a Hungarian Jew who committed suicide, so he suffered from this terrible loss. Even from a symbolic point of view, having a father committing suicide is terrible for a son. And even his own son died at the age of 11 days. When the little baby was only 11 days old, this baby died. Rudolf, named after his father, Rudolf Bloom. And from that moment on, he and Greta never ever had complete sexual affair. They never ever made sex anymore, not genitally, Joyce says. They never ever encountered physically. So that's why Molly looked for sex outside her marriage, and in fact she had an affair with Blazes Boylan, who was supposed to provide her with evenings because she was a singer, and Blazes Boylan was her empreneur, and they often had sex, of which she speaks in her final interior monologue. And basically she says that even though he was sexually satisfactory, really satisfactory, but emotionally she didn't like at all to make sex with Blazes. The only man who really knew how to make love to her was her husband, was Leopold. She says that in the final interior monologue, which can be found in the last chapter, chapter 18, Penelope, because we do not have to remember that, to forget that the 18 chapters follow Homer's Odyssey according to the mythical method. Joyce, and this is what T.S. Eliot said in his essay, Ulysses, Order and Myth, Joyce uses the mythical method instead of the narrative method. According to Eliot, modern word, which he compared to a wasteland after his famous poem, The Wasteland, modern word is meaningless, is absurd. And he says that the only way to give shape and meaning to this panorama of futility that is modern word is making a constant comparison to a classical, mythical, ordered past. So that's what Joyce does. She has some mythical characters such as Eve, Tiresias, Ulysses, Telemachus, Stephen, Daedalus, and gives us the modern version of these characters. Eve has become Evelyn. Ulysses is now Leopold. Penelope is now Molly. Gabriel and Michael, the two angels, are now Michael Fury and Gabriel Conroy.